The silence begins. The Galactic Council chamber was restless. Thousands of voices argued, shouted, and hissed at each other. For centuries, this hall had been the symbol of peace, the place where disputes ended before fleets marched to war. But tonight the peace felt thin like old glass ready to shatter. Every eye turned toward one delegation, Earth's. The humans sat in silence. They wore plain black uniforms, no symbols, no decoration, nothing to show pride or fear. Their faces were calm, their hands still, while other species flared their wings, clicked their mandibles, or flashed their colors in anger. Humanity gave nothing. The silence unsettled everyone. A scaled ambassador of the Korath hissed from his seat. "Humans, you are accused of building secret fleets. You hide weapons in your moons. You prepare for war while pretending loyalty to the truce. Speak. Defend yourselves." The humans did not answer. Their leader, Ambassador Reeve, leaned back slightly in his chair. His dark eyes studied the ceiling, as if the storm of accusations was no more than background noise. The chamber erupted. "Cowards!" one senator screamed. "Guilty by silence!" another roared. Finally, the council's high speaker struck the floor with her staff. The crystal sound cut the noise. "Earth," she said, her voice echoing like thunder. "The galaxy demands your answer. Will you confess? Will you deny? Will you beg for mercy?" Reeve stood slowly. He did not raise his voice. He did not shout back like the others. Instead, he spoke in calm, simple words. "For 5,000 years, humanity has honored the truce. We have never fired the first shot. We have never broken the peace, but today you accuse us of preparing for war. Perhaps you fear what silence means. Perhaps you fear what waits in the quiet." The chamber fell quiet for a moment. No one understood what he meant. No one wanted to. The insectoid queen of Cathara clacked her jaws. "Enough of riddles. Answer the charge plainly. Do you build weapons? Do you seek war?" Reeve looked at her, his smile small but sharp. "Earth seeks nothing. Earth waits." The council broke into chaos again. Voices shouted, claws slammed on tables, wings beat the air. Many demanded immediate war. Others whispered nervously, unsure. What did wait mean? But humanity gave no further words. Their delegation turned and walked out of the chamber, silent as shadows. The silence spread across the galaxy like a storm. On distant worlds, news reports repeated the scene again and again. Humans refused to speak. Earth withdraws from the council. What does their silence mean? Armies mobilized. Fleets gathered near human borders. Fear rose like smoke across the stars. Alien leaders debated endlessly. Some claimed humans had no defense. They cannot speak because they are guilty, they said. Others warned that silence was a weapon. Beware the quiet predator, they whispered. When it does not roar, it waits to strike. But no one knew the truth. On Earth itself, the people lived calmly. Cities glowed as always. Children walked to school. Farmers tilled fields. No panic filled the streets. Instead, there was a strange quiet confidence, as if the entire species shared one secret. In hidden bunkers, deep below the surface, generals watched the council's chaos unfold. They exchanged no words, only small nods. Plans written centuries ago stirred to life. Old machines hummed again, powered by silence. The galaxy expected humans to deny. The galaxy expected humans to argue. But Earth gave them nothing. Only quiet, only patience. And patience is sharper than any blade. On the edge of the solar system, a coalition fleet gathered. 3,000 ships from dozens of species, their cannons ready, their commanders certain victory was near. Yet even as they aimed their weapons towards Sol, they found no resistance. No human ships met them. No warnings came across channels. Just silence. It was the kind of silence that made even the bravest warriors uneasy. Inside the flagship, Admiral Varen tapped his claws against the console. He hated silence. Silence was a lie. Silence was a trap. He turned to his officers and hissed, "Do not trust it. The humans hide something." But his words did not reach far. Across the galaxy, most believed silence meant weakness. They were eager for war. They were eager to break Earth. None of them realized the truth, that Earth's silence was not weakness at all. It was the calm before chaos. Whispers in the dark. The galaxy was restless. Earth's silence had spread like a shadow, stretching across every star system. For thousands of years, humans had spoken in the council, debated and argued like everyone else. But now, nothing. Their silence was louder than war drums. Alien leaders filled their halls with anger and fear. In the spire towers of Korath, the reptilian generals hissed and slammed their tails against stone floors. "They refuse to speak because they are guilty," one shouted. "We must strike now before they arm themselves further." On the icy world of Vera, the bird-like senators whispered a different thought. "No species is so calm in the face of war," one said nervously. "What if silence is their weapon? What if they want us to make the first move?" But no one agreed. Voices clashed, armies mobilized. Across the stars, fleets began to move, and yet the humans did nothing. Their colonies continued life as normal. Transmissions carried music, trade reports, and weather forecasts. No threats, no pleas. Their ambassadors had vanished from the council, and even their allies, few though they were, could not explain their quiet. The galaxy waited, and the longer they waited, the more the whispers grew. In the dark corners of space, patrols began to vanish. A scout ship sent to watch Mars reported nothing unusual, then never returned. A patrol of 6 frigates entered the asteroid belt, their signals strong and clear. Moments later, silence. Only drifting wreckage was found, blackened, and cold, as if life had been ripped away in a single instant. Admiral Veyron studied these reports with a frown. He was no fool. His people believed silence meant weakness, but he knew better. "Predators do not roar when they hunt," he muttered. "They wait. They choose the moment." But few listened to him. The council broadcast speeches across the galaxy. Leaders shouted of human arrogance, human crimes, human lies. They promised swift victory, promised to burn Earth's silence away with fire. Crowds cheered. Armies gathered. The galaxy tried to bury its fear under noise, but the whispers never stopped. A refugee merchant told a strange story. His convoy had passed near the edge of Sol, and for hours his radios filled with soft static. And something else. It wasn't a signal. It wasn't language. It was the faint sound of laughter. He swore to it with shaking hands. The council dismissed him as a fool. But the story spread anyway. On distant moons, soldiers told each other that human silence was not emptiness. It was a storm building. On colony stations, officers woke in the night, swearing they had heard voices laughing through the comm systems, even when the channels were locked. Fear turned into anger. Anger turned into mistakes. The coalition fleet pushed deeper into human space. They found abandoned stations, deserted outposts. No people, no resistance. Only silence and the faint smell of dust. The more they advanced, the more uneasy they became. It was too easy. "Where are they?" a captain demanded. "Why do they run?" His second officer stared at the empty station, its halls clean, its power still running. "They didn't run," she whispered. "They left it for us, like bait." And still the humans gave no answer, no messages, no signals, only quiet. Across the galaxy, the silence became unbearable. Leaders demanded war. Generals shouted for blood. They believed victory was close. But in the shadows of Earth, deep beneath oceans and mountains, humanity was watching, waiting, listening. Their silence was not surrender. It was the first move. And soon, the galaxy would understand what silence meant. The first crack. The coalition armada moved deeper into human territory. Thousands of ships of every size and shape filled the dark between the stars. Their banners carried pride, their weapons carried fire, and their leaders believed victory was already theirs. But the further they marched, the stranger things became. Stations floated in silence. Outposts stood abandoned. Mining colonies were found with lights still burning, meals left on tables, machines running, but no people anywhere. It was as if humanity had vanished into thin air. "This is wrong," said Captain Alrin of the Tayari, her feathers trembling as she looked at the abandoned colony on Phobos. No species leaves so clean. No panic. No struggle. They wanted us to find this. Her commander laughed bitterly. "They run like prey, Captain. Do not mistake cowardice for strategy." Yet even as he spoke, doubt spread through the fleets. The silence of Earth's colonies was too neat, too careful. Then the first crack appeared. It happened near the asteroid belt. A coalition patrol of 30 ships entered the rocks, searching for hidden human forces. Their signals were strong, steady, confident. Then, one by one, they went dark. No alarms, no distress calls, just silence. A recovery team entered after them. They found fragments of ships, cut clean as if by blades sharper than anything the galaxy had seen. And on every wreck, the same strange detail. There were no bodies. Not one. Reports shook the fleet. Whispers spread quickly. Some said the humans had captured the crews alive. Others said the humans had weapons that left nothing behind. None of the rumors brought comfort. Admiral Varen stood on his flagship's bridge, studying the reports. His jaw tightened. "This is no accident," he said. "This is their plan." Still, his council of commanders disagreed. "We have numbers," one insisted. "We have power. If humans truly had such weapons, they would use them openly." Varen's golden eyes narrowed. Predators do not reveal their claws until the prey believes it is safe. But his warning was ignored. The coalition pressed forward, deeper still. More outposts were found abandoned. More patrols vanished. Every discovery was the same. Silence. Clean silence. Too clean. Finally, the coalition gathered near the orbit of Mars. Thousands of ships prepared for the great push toward Earth itself. The fleet spread across the system, weapons charged, engines burning bright. The commanders believed this was the end of the game. Humanity hides, they told themselves. They cannot resist all of us. One more step and the war is won. But then it happened. Without warning, a section of the fleet disappeared from scanners. Hundreds of ships gone in a blink, no explosions, no debris, no trace, just gone. Alarms screamed. Commanders shouted for answers. Sensors are failing. Communications are jammed. Then the human signal came. It wasn't a message of surrender. It wasn't even a threat. Across every coalition channel came a single sound. Laughter. Soft at first, then louder. Cold, calm, confident. Alien officers froze in terror. The sound was human, yes, but twisted, layered, as if 1,000 voices laughed together in perfect unity. The laughter filled every comm, every console, every helmet. There was no way to block it. On one cruiser, a soldier dropped to his knees. "They're playing with us," he whispered. "We thought they were weak, but this is their trap." Then the first human strike came. From the shadows of the asteroid belt, hidden ships emerged. Their weapons cut through coalition cruisers in clean lines of destruction. Railgun slugs tore through dreadnoughts. Gravity traps spun battleships into each other, smashing them like toys. The coalition fired back wildly, but the humans vanished again. Chaos erupted. Fleets crashed into each other in panic. Officers screamed not at the enemy but at the silence between attacks. And still, the laughter echoed. For the first time in 5,000 years, the galaxy realized what Earth's silence meant. It meant the storm had finally begun, the shattered front. The coalition fleets were in disarray. Ships darted in every direction, commanders shouted over broken comms, and the black void of space seemed to close in tighter with every second. What had begun as a march of triumph now felt like a nightmare. The first human strikes had shattered their confidence. Railguns had cut through their strongest ships like paper. Gravity traps twisted formations into chaos. And worst of all, the laughter still echoed in every channel like a ghost that would not leave. Admiral Varen stood on the bridge of his flagship, his claws gripping the railing until sparks danced across the metal. He had led fleets into battle before the truce. He had faced wars and rebellions, but never had he faced an enemy that fought like this, calm, silent, smiling. "They are breaking us apart," one officer cried. "We cannot regroup. Every time we form a line, they vanish and strike from behind." Varen's eyes narrowed. He had seen this pattern before, not in reality but in training. Predators on his homeworld hunted this way. They scattered herds, forcing prey to break ranks until panic destroyed them more effectively than claws. "They are not fighting our fleet," he whispered. "They are shattering our front." Across the asteroid belt, human ships moved with eerie precision. They struck and vanished, reappeared and struck again. Coalition vessels fired back, but their blasts tore into their own allies more often than the enemy. The front lines collapsed into confusion, each ship fighting alone, each captain desperate to survive. And then the second phase of the trap began. Asteroids shifted. At first it seemed like random movement, but soon the truth was clear. The belt itself had been weaponized. Thousands of hidden thrusters long buried in rock activated at once. Entire fields of stone moved like soldiers obeying orders. Coalition fleets screamed warnings. Battleships collided with drifting giants. Cruisers were crushed between massive stones that moved like jaws closing. The battlefield itself was alive and it belonged to Earth. "Impossible," shouted an insectoid commander. No species could prepare this in secret. But deep down, they knew the truth. Humanity had been preparing since the day the truce was signed. While others trusted peace, Earth turned every rock, every station, every moon into part of a weapon. Inside the council chambers far away, the news spread in real time. Reports of collapsing fleets, of shifting asteroids, of laughter echoing in comms. Senators turned pale. Leaders shook their heads in disbelief. "This cannot be true," one whispered. The humans did not only build ships, they built the battlefield itself. In the void, coalition soldiers felt their courage bleed away. Some tried to rally, but their voices were drowned in fear. Others abandoned their positions, fleeing into deep space, preferring exile over facing Earth's trap. Admiral Varen forced his officers to hold their course. "We do not flee," he growled. "If we run, we are prey forever. We fight until the end." But his words were met with silence. Even his crew looked at him with wide, frightened eyes. They had seen the truth too clearly. This was no ordinary war. This was a slaughter planned for centuries. The humans struck again. This time their ships did not vanish quickly. They lingered just long enough for the coalition to see their precision, their calm movements, the cold fire of their weapons, and as they fired, they broadcast one final message across all channels. "You broke the truce," the voice said softly. "Now you see why we kept it." The laughter returned, louder, rolling through the fire and debris. For many, it was the last sound they ever heard. The coalition front was shattered. What had once been a proud armada was now only scattered survivors, each one carrying terror in their hearts. And the galaxy realized something far worse than war had begun. Humanity had not just defended itself. Humanity had chosen the battlefield, broken the alliance, and turned silence into a weapon sharper than any blade. The shattered front would never be rebuilt. Chaos. Across the stars, the war had begun at the edge of Sol. It should have stayed there. But the shattered front tore the galaxy apart. The coalition had been more than a fleet. It had been a symbol. Dozens of species standing together, united by the truce. But now that symbol was broken. The humans had not just defeated ships. They had broken the idea of unity itself. Whispers of fear spread faster than any weapon. On the council world of Vera, senators argued in panic. "Send more fleets," cried the scaled Korath generals. We can still crush them with numbers. But the bird-like Vayrans shook their heads. No number matters against shadows. They strike and vanish. We will only throw lives into their jaws. Insectoid queens accused their reptilian allies of arrogance. Smaller species accused the larger ones of dragging them into disaster. The chamber that once held order now shook with blame and fury. Meanwhile, across distant colonies, riots broke out. Civilians demanded answers. How could the proud coalition lose so quickly? Why had humans, once dismissed as young and reckless, suddenly revealed power greater than the ancients? No leader could give a clear answer. Chaos bled across the stars. The coalition's armies fractured. Fleets that were once united turned homeward, each species deciding it was safer to defend their own borders than to march toward Earth. Former allies glared at each other with suspicion, afraid their neighbors might strike them next. And through it all, the humans said nothing. Their silence was the loudest voice in the galaxy. Every intercepted signal carried only faint traces, sometimes static, sometimes brief distortions. But more than once, alien soldiers swore they heard something else hidden in the static. A chuckle, a whisper, laughter echoing faintly, like ghosts in the machines. The rumors spread like fire. Whole fleets trembled at the idea that humans were not only watching them but enjoying it. On a refugee station at the edge of neutral space, a soldier sat trembling in a corner. His armor was cracked, his eyes wide. "I saw them," he whispered to anyone who would listen. "Their ships, they didn't fight us for survival. They fought like hunters. They laughed. Do you understand? They laughed while we burned." Some called him mad, others believed him. But the story grew. Soon every tavern, every mess hall, every street carried the tale of human laughter. The galaxy turned on itself. The insectoid Cathara withdrew their fleets completely, hissing that they would no longer shed blood for the arrogance of others. The Korath raged, calling them cowards. The Vayrans refused to fight at all, claiming neutrality. Smaller species broke treaties, pulling away from the Council entirely. And in the middle of the chaos, Earth's silence remained. Finally, after weeks of collapse, a single message left the solar system. It was not broadcast through the Council. It was not hidden in whispers. It was sent openly, carried on every channel, heard in every corner of the galaxy. A human voice spoke, calm and clear. "You asked for war. You demanded it. You broke the truce. And now you taste the price." The words carried no rage, no boast. Only truth, spoken like a judge delivering a sentence. The voice paused, and then added, "We do not seek to conquer. We do not seek to rule. But when you look at the fires burning in your skies, remember this. It was you who begged for them. Humanity only answered." The message ended. No further words followed, and once again silence spread. But it was not empty silence. It was heavy, suffocating. Every species that heard the words felt the same truth settle deep inside them. Humanity did not need to shout, did not need to threaten. Their silence was the threat. Across the stars, chaos grew. Fleets broke apart. Alliances shattered. Fear spread faster than armies. And still, Earth waited. The galaxy had wanted war. Now it had war. But it was not the war they expected. It was a war where silence was deadlier than weapons, and the humans were the only ones who understood how to wield it. The collapse of order. The galaxy was falling apart. The coalition no longer existed. Its fleets had either been destroyed in the trap near Sol, or had scattered into fragments, each rushing back to defend their own borders. The promise of unity, which once held for 5,000 years, was gone, and with its fall came chaos. On the reptilian world of Korath, generals screamed at one another, claws clashing on the stone floors of their war halls. Some wanted to continue the fight, to rebuild the fleet and strike again. Others demanded retreat, insisting the humans were too dangerous. Blame filled the air. Old rivalries flared back into the open. On Veyra, the bird-like senators fled their chambers under a storm of riots. Civilians demanded answers. Why had their fleets been sent to die? Why had their leaders trusted in an alliance that crumbled at the first strike? For the first time in generations, cities burned, not from enemy weapons, but from their own people's rage. On the insectoid hives of Cathara, queens silenced their messengers. They called the war a mistake, declaring neutrality. Their fleets withdrew completely, leaving their former allies exposed. The council itself became a battlefield of words. Senators who once spoke of unity now shouted accusations, their voices shaking with fear. The great dome that once echoed with promises of peace now shook with the sounds of collapse, and through it all Earth remained silent. No messages, no broadcasts, no explanations, only stillness. That silence pressed against every species like a weight, making them wonder what humanity was planning next. In hidden meeting halls, whispers grew darker. They knew this would happen, one ambassador muttered. They wanted us to turn against each other. They set the trap, another replied. Not just with ships, with our pride. But no one dared say the full truth out loud, that humanity had broken the galaxy not with fire alone, but with silence. Reports from survivors only deepened the terror. Captains spoke of railguns striking faster than light, of ships vanishing like shadows, of asteroid fields that moved as if alive. And always, the survivors spoke of the laughter. They laughed while we died. One soldier whispered in a council chamber, not because they are cruel, but because they were waiting for this moment. For 5,000 years they waited. The word spread. Fear became legend. Whole sectors collapsed into anarchy. Former allies closed their borders, preparing for wars against each other instead of against Earth. Old grudges rose from the ashes of peace. The galaxy turned inward, fractured, broken. Admiral Veyron, still alive but broken, returned to Korath. His people demanded answers. Why did we fail, they asked. Why could we not defeat one small world? Veyron could only speak the truth. His voice was hollow, his eyes dim. They were never small, he said. The truce was their weapon. We gave them 5,000 years to sharpen their claws while we grew soft. And when we begged for war, they showed us what silence means. His words spread further than he intended. Within weeks, they were repeated on distant worlds, carved into stone, whispered in streets. The truce was their weapon. Silence was their shield. And now silence is our fear. Back in the solar system, humanity watched calmly. Their fleets remained hidden, silent, patient. They did not pursue fleeing enemies. They did not demand surrender. They simply waited, letting the galaxy destroy itself. General Arya Cole spoke to her commanders on Mars. Her voice was calm, steady. They will break themselves, she said. We need only remind them who we are. Her officers nodded. No cheers. No celebration. Humanity did not rejoice in victory. Humanity prepared for what would come next, because silence was not the end. Silence was the beginning. The galaxy had collapsed under its own fear, and now every species looked to Earth with the same thought. If this is what humanity can do by waiting quietly, what will they do when they decide to speak? The new dawn, the galaxy was broken. The truce that had lasted 5,000 years lay in ruins. The Great Coalition was gone, its fleets scattered, its leaders humiliated. Civilizations that once stood together now turned on each other, desperate to protect themselves. And in the center of it all, Earth remained silent. No ships invaded, no fleets demanded tribute. No ambassadors stormed into council halls. Humanity simply watched, calm and patient, letting the galaxy collapse under the weight of its own fear. For weeks, the silence stretched. Worlds rebuilt defenses, terrified that the humans would strike again. Trade routes closed. Armies refused to leave their borders. The council chamber, once full of noise, now echoed only with whispers. Finally, Earth broke the silence. Ambassador Reeve returned to the council chamber, his black uniform spotless, his face unreadable. He walked to the center of the dome, and every eye followed him. No senator shouted this time. No general demanded war. The memory of laughter in the fire still haunted them all. Reeve raised his voice, calm and clear. You begged for war. You shouted for blood. You broke the truce, and you came to our gates with fire. Now you have seen the truth. His words echoed across the chamber. None dared to interrupt. For 5,000 years, humanity stayed silent. Not because we feared you. Not because we were weak, but because we knew that one day you would forget what war truly means. You forgot. We remembered. He looked around the chamber, his gaze sharp as steel. We will not rule you. We will not enslave you. We do not want your thrones or your crowns. But you will remember this day. You will remember what happens when Earth goes silent. A heavy stillness filled the chamber. The senators shifted uneasily, their wings folding tight, their claws scraping nervously. For the first time, the galaxy understood that humanity did not need to conquer. Their silence was stronger than conquest. Reeve's final words fell like stone. When you hear silence from Earth, know this: chaos will follow. With that, the human delegation turned and left. No further threats, no demands, only calm, patient silence. Across the galaxy, the message spread. Some species bowed their heads, swearing never again to challenge Earth. Others whispered fearfully in their homes, praying they would never hear laughter in the static. Even the strongest civilizations chose caution, retreating to their own corners of space, unwilling to risk another war. On Earth, life returned to normal. Children went to school, farmers tilled fields, workers repaired cities. To outsiders, it looked like peace. But hidden beneath mountains, oceans, and ice, humanity's fleets remained, silent, waiting, patient. General Arya Cole stood with her officers on Mars, reviewing reports. She did not smile. She did not celebrate. This war is over, she said, but the galaxy is not finished with us. When they forget again, they will test us again, and when that day comes... She left the words unfinished. She didn't need to say them. Every officer understood. Humanity would be ready. In the far reaches of space, alien soldiers told stories in hushed voices. They spoke of ships that vanished like ghosts, of asteroids that moved like jaws, of weapons, sharper than anything known. But most of all, they spoke of the sound, the laughter that filled their ears as their fleets burned. Some said it was madness. Others said it was joy. But all agreed on one truth. It was the laughter of predators. The truce had ended, the old galaxy had fallen, and in its place a new order began, not ruled by crowns, not bound by treaties, but by fear of Earth's silence. For the first time in 5,000 years, the galaxy no longer breathed on its own. It waited, watched, held its breath. Because, somewhere in the quiet of Sol, humanity waited too. And everyone knew. When Earth went silent again, the stars themselves would tremble.